The crisis began on the third day of their stay at Dominion. Captain Jiwon was reviewing Minho's repair progress when alarms started sounding throughout the palace. Red lights flashed in the corridors and alien voices spoke urgently over communication systems. "What's happening?" asked Hieri, trying to understand the rapid alien chatter coming through their translators. Before anyone could answer, Chancellor Bex Quinn arrived at their quarters with a dozen guards. His four eyes were wide with worry, and his usual calm demeanor was gone. "Captain Jiwon, the Emperor requests your immediate presence in the war room," he said. "The Empire is under attack." The humans followed the Chancellor through corridors filled with running aliens and flashing emergency lights. The war room was a massive chamber with walls covered in displays showing star maps, fleet positions, and battle reports. Emperor Zexthol stood in the center, surrounded by military advisors from all 12 species. His silver skin had darkened with stress, and his large eyes focused on the displays with intense concentration. "Captain," the Emperor said when he saw the humans, "we face our gravest crisis in over a century. The Ravagers have launched their largest offensive ever against our outer territories." Jiwon studied the displays. The Ravagers appeared to be a nomadic species that lived on massive ships and attacked settled civilizations. Their fleet was enormous, and they were using weapons that the Imperial forces couldn't match. "How can we assist, Your Majesty?" Jiwon asked. Admiral Kethka, the Saurid commander they had first met, turned to face them. His predatory features showed desperation. "Captain, our fleets are being destroyed. These weapons, we've never seen anything like them. Our shields fail, our ships are torn apart. We need help." The humans exchanged glances. This was exactly the kind of situation that could expose their deception. They had no weapons, no fleet, no way to actually help the Empire fight this battle. But they also saw an opportunity. "Admiral," Do-Yun said carefully, "human involvement in regional conflicts requires careful consideration. Direct intervention could escalate the situation beyond your current parameters." "Escalate?" the Admiral demanded. "How could it get worse?" "Admiral," Taehun said with military authority, "there are always ways for situations to get worse. Human military doctrine focuses on proportional response and long-term stability." The Emperor stepped closer to the humans. "What are you saying? That you could help but choose not to? We're saying that direct human military action might solve your immediate problem while creating larger problems," Jiwon explained. "However, we might be able to provide guidance that could help you resolve this crisis using your own resources." "Guidance?" asked the Emperor. "Strategic consultation," Do-Hyun clarified. "Humans have encountered similar situations before. Sometimes the solution isn't more firepower, but better application of existing capabilities." It was true. Humans had encountered similar situations in their own history, though not on a galactic scale. The crew of the New Horizon included people with military training, strategic thinking, and experience with asymmetric warfare. "What kind of guidance?" Admiral Kethka asked suspiciously. "First, we need complete information about the situation," Jiwon said. "Battle plans, fleet positions, weapon capabilities, enemy tactics, everything." "That's classified military information," protested one of the other admirals. "Admiral," the Emperor said firmly, "if human assistance can save our people, they will have access to whatever information they require." For the next 6 hours, the humans studied the Empire's military situation. What they found was both impressive and frustrating. The Empire had enormous fleets and advanced technology, but they fought using predictable tactics that the Ravagers had learned to counter. "Your fleets are too centralized," Sun Wu observed during a strategy session. "The Ravagers are using that against you." "Explain," demanded Admiral Kethka. "You concentrate your ships in large formations for maximum firepower," Do-Hyun said, pointing at the tactical displays. "But the Ravagers have weapons that work better against concentrated targets. You're giving them exactly what they want to shoot at. What do you suggest?" asked the Emperor. "Disperse tactics," Taehun replied. "Small, fast groups that can strike and withdraw before the Ravagers can bring their heavy weapons to bear. Our ships aren't designed for that kind of warfare," protested another. "Admiral, your ships are more versatile than you think," Yunbi said, studying the technical specifications. "You have excellent sensor systems and communication networks. You could coordinate distributed attacks across multiple systems simultaneously. The humans spent the next 2 days working with Imperial military leaders to develop new tactics. They used human understanding of strategy and the Empire's detailed knowledge of their own capabilities to create battle plans that no one had considered before. The key insight came from Minho, who understood both engineering and military thinking. Your problem isn't your weapons or your ships, he told the assembled commanders. Your problem is that you're fighting like an empire instead of fighting like survivors. What's the difference? Asked the Emperor. Empires fight to control territory and preserve assets, Minho explained. Survivors fight to win by any means necessary. The Ravagers are survivors. You need to think like them. How do we do that? Admiral Kethka asked. Stop trying to save every ship and every planet, Tehun said bluntly. Accept losses in some areas to concentrate overwhelming force in others. Make the Ravagers come to you instead of chasing them around space. The strategy they developed was radical by Imperial standards. Instead of defending everything equally, the Empire would abandon several outer systems while concentrating their forces for devastating counterattacks against Ravager fleet bases. It will work, Yeri said with confidence. But only if your commanders can adapt to flexible timing and communication-based coordination instead of rigid formations. Can they? The Emperor asked his admirals. We'll have to learn quickly. Admiral Kethka replied grimly. The new tactics were implemented immediately. Imperial fleets withdrew from fixed positions and began operating in small mobile groups. They used their superior communication systems to coordinate attacks across vast distances, hitting Ravager supply lines and support ships instead of engaging their battle fleets directly. The results were dramatic. Within a week, the Ravager offensive began to collapse. Their heavy weapons were useless against targets they couldn't find, and their supply lines were being cut faster than they could protect them. Remarkable, the Emperor said as he reviewed the battle reports. Your guidance has saved countless lives and preserved the Empire. Your people did the fighting, Jiwan replied. We just suggested a different approach to problems you already knew how to solve. Nevertheless, the Empire owes humanity a great debt, the Emperor declared. Name your reward. This was the moment the humans had been preparing for. They needed to extract themselves from the situation without insulting the Empire or revealing their deception. Your Majesty, Jiwan said carefully, the greatest reward would be continued peaceful relations between our peoples. Humans value neighbors who can solve their own problems when given the right tools. You would want nothing else? Peaceful coexistence serves everyone's interests, Dohyun replied. Conflict is wasteful. Cooperation is efficient. What about territorial concessions, trade agreements, military alliances? Your Majesty, Tehun said with diplomatic precision. Formal agreements require authorization from our leadership that we currently don't have. Perhaps future contact can explore such possibilities. The Emperor studied them thoughtfully. You continue to speak of authorization from your leadership. When will you be able to communicate with them? Soon, Your Majesty, Yeri replied. Our repairs are nearly complete. Once we can re-establish contact, proper diplomatic channels can be opened. What she didn't say was that their repairs were indeed nearly complete, and they were planning to leave as soon as possible. I see, the Emperor said. And until then? Until then, we continue as honored guests of the Empire, Jiwan said. Learning about your people and sharing what knowledge we can. The Emperor nodded slowly. Very well. But know that the Empire will remember this assistance. When formal contact is established, humanity will find the Villani Empire to be grateful friends. As the humans left the war room, they knew they had passed the most dangerous test. They had provided real help without revealing their limitations, and they had positioned themselves to leave without creating enemies. But they also knew their time was running out. The longer they stayed, the greater the chance that someone would discover the truth about their situation. Minho's repairs were almost finished. Soon they would have to find a way to disappear as mysteriously as they had arrived. Captain Jiwan stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars through the main screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 months on a simple exploration mission. Their job was to test the new wormhole drive and map unknown space. Everything had been going well until today. Captain, we have a problem, said Minho from the engineering station. His voice was tight with worry. The wormhole drive is acting strange. The power levels are jumping all over the place. Ji-won walked over to look at the readings. The numbers made no sense. Can you fix it? I'm trying, but it's like the whole system is fighting me, Minho replied. He pressed several buttons, but the warnings kept flashing red. Suddenly, the ship shook hard. Everyone grabbed onto something to keep from falling. The lights flickered and strange sounds came from the walls. What's happening? Asked Yeri from the communications desk. The drive is activating on its own, Minho shouted over the noise. I can't stop it! The ship shook again, harder this time. Then everything went white. When the light faded, they were somewhere completely different. Instead of empty space, they found themselves surrounded by huge alien ships. Oh no, whispered Do-yun, the science officer. He was staring at his readings. Captain, we're not in our galaxy anymore. The alien ships were massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They had strange shapes with sharp edges and glowing parts. There were at least 20 of them, all pointing weapons at the new horizon. This is Admiral Kethka of the Villani Empire, came a voice through their communications. The translator worked, but the voice sounded angry and dangerous. Unknown vessel, you have entered Imperial space without permission. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Ji-won looked around the bridge. His crew of 200 people was now trapped in alien space with no way home. Their ship was tiny compared to the alien vessels. They had no weapons that could fight these ships. But Ji-won had been a captain for 15 years. He knew that sometimes the best weapon was confidence. Yeri, open a channel, he said calmly. Channel open, Captain. Ji-won straightened his uniform and spoke in a steady voice. Admiral Kethka, this is Captain Ji-won of the human vessel New Horizon. I advise you to be very careful about your next actions. There was silence for a moment. Then the Admiral spoke again. You dare threaten the Imperial fleet? Your ship is nothing compared to our power. Admiral, Ji-won said, still calm. You misunderstand. I'm not threatening you. I'm trying to protect you. My people have certain protocols in place. If anything happens to this ship or its crew, the consequences would be most unfortunate. Do-hyun stared at his captain. They had no protocols. They had no backup. They were completely alone. But the science officer was smart enough to stay quiet. What protocols? Demanded the Admiral. The kind that ensure peaceful contact remains peaceful, Ji-won replied. I'm sure you understand the importance of proper procedures when dealing with unknown variables. Minho was working frantically at his station, trying to figure out how to fix their wormhole drive. He had managed to shut it down, but the damage was bad. It would take time to repair. Tae-hoon, Ji-won said quietly to his security chief. I need you to look very calm and confident. Tae-hoon nodded. He had been in the military before joining the exploration service. He knew how to look dangerous without saying a word. The Admiral's voice came again. What is your purpose in Imperial space? We are explorers, Admiral. We study new regions of space. Sometimes our work brings us to interesting locations. Ji-won paused. I trust this won't become an incident that requires intervention from our fleet. The truth was that Earth had no fleet. The New Horizon was one of only 5 ships that humans had built for deep space. But the Admiral didn't know that. Your fleet? The Admiral asked. Naturally, Ji-won said. We don't send ships into unknown space without proper support. I'm sure you follow similar procedures. Sunwoo, the ship's expert on alien life, was studying the readings from the Imperial ships. To him, they were fascinating examples of alien technology, but his focused attention looked like he was gathering intelligence. Captain, Yeri whispered, they're scanning us. Let them, Ji-won replied quietly. Our technology will look primitive to them. That might make them think we're hiding something better. The scans would show that human technology was far behind the Empire's level, but sometimes being underestimated was an advantage. Admiral, Ji-won continued, I suggest we handle this situation carefully. My ship suffered some damage during our arrival. If you could provide us with safe passage to make repairs, we can avoid any complications. You want us to help you? I want us to handle this like civilized beings, Ji-won said. Surely the Villani Empire values proper diplomatic contact. There was a long pause. The captain could imagine the Admiral talking with his officers, trying to figure out what kind of threat the humans might be. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. You will follow my ships to Nexus Prime. Any attempt to escape or use weapons will result in your destruction. Admiral, we have no intention of using weapons. Violence is always a last resort. Jiwon's voice carried a hint that humans had other options if needed. Understood. Follow the lead ship. The communication ended. Jiwon sat back in his captain's chair and tried not to show his relief. Captain, Do-hyun said quietly, what are we doing? We can't fight them. We can't run. And we certainly don't have any fleet coming to help us. We're buying time, Jiwon replied. Minho, how long to fix the drive? At least 2 weeks, maybe more. I need to rebuild half the system. Then we have 2 weeks to convince them that attacking us would be a very bad idea. Jiwon looked at his crew. Everyone needs to act like we belong here. Like we're not afraid, like we have reasons to be confident. But Captain, said Jihoon, a young officer, what if they find out we're lying? Jiwon smiled grimly. Then we better make sure they don't. The New Horizon followed the alien ships toward an unknown destination. Behind them, space looked empty and peaceful. Ahead lay the territory of an empire that controlled hundreds of worlds and billions of alien beings. The humans were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous weapon was the enemy's imagination, and sometimes survival depended on making people believe you were much more dangerous than you really were. The journey to Nexus Prime would take 3 days. 3 days for the humans to prepare for the greatest performance of their lives. Nexus Prime was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The space station was the size of a small moon, with thousands of ships docked around it. Lights covered its surface like a city that never slept. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Look at the size of that thing, whispered Seojin from the navigation station. Stay focused, Captain Jiwon reminded his crew. Remember, we act like we've seen stations like this before. The New Horizon was guided to a docking bay that could have held 50 ships their size. As they landed, Jiwon could see alien beings watching through the windows. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking plants, and some were shapes he couldn't even describe. Captain, we're receiving a message, said Hyeri. Governor Yethnel wants to meet with you immediately. Understood. Do-hyun, Tae-hoon, you're with me. Everyone else, remember what we discussed. We're explorers with backup plans. The 3 humans walked through the station's corridors. The aliens they passed stared at them with curiosity and worry. Word had spread quickly about the mysterious humans who talked to Admiral Kethka like equals. Governor Yethnel was waiting in a large meeting room. She belonged to a species that looked like walking insects with 4 arms and huge compound eyes. Her movements were quick and nervous. Welcome to Nexus Prime, the governor said. Her voice came through their translators with a clicking sound. I am most curious about your people. We have no record of humans in our databases. Governor, we appreciate your hospitality, Jiwon replied calmly. Humans prefer to observe before making formal contact. We study potential neighbors carefully. Observe? For how long have you been observing the Empire? Do-hyun stepped forward. Governor, exploration takes many forms. Sometimes it requires patience. Sometimes it requires different approaches. His scientific training made him sound very serious. We gather information about regions before determining the best way to proceed. The governor's compound eyes focused on him. What kind of information? Standard data. Population centers, technological levels, social structures, military capabilities. Do-hyun was listing normal scientific observations, but it sounded like intelligence gathering. We find it important to understand variables before making contact. Back on the ship, the rest of the crew was playing their parts. Sunwoo was studying the alien species they had encountered, making notes about their biology and behavior. But to anyone watching, it looked like he was writing intelligence reports. Fascinating, he said to Yoonbi, the medical officer. The saurid species shows clear predatory evolution. Strong muscle groups, efficient circulatory system. Their military would favor aggressive tactics. What about the governor's species? Yoonbi asked. She was treating a crew member's headache, but she kept her voice professional. The compound eyes suggest excellent battlefield awareness. Multiple arms would allow for complex tool use. They would make good engineers or coordinators. Sunwoo paused. These observations should be included in our reports. Reports to who? Asked Jihoon quietly. To command, obviously, Yoonbi replied, playing along. They'll want to know everything about potential complications. Meanwhile, Minho was working on the wormhole drive while keeping up the act. When alien technicians offered to help, he politely refused. Thank you, but our technology requires specific procedures, he told them. Safety protocols, you understand? Some of our systems are sensitive to outside interference. The truth was that he didn't want them to see how primitive human technology really was, but his refusal made them think humans had secrets to protect. In the meeting room, Governor Yethnel was growing more frustrated. Every question she asked got answers that revealed nothing but suggested much. "What are your people's intentions regarding the Empire?" she demanded. "Governor," Jiwan said carefully, "humans have always believed in peaceful coexistence. We have no desire for conflict, but we also believe in being prepared for all possibilities." Prepared how? Tae-hoon spoke for the first time. His military bearing made every word sound important. "Governor, peaceful contact is always preferred, but alternatives exist. My people have learned that the best way to ensure peace is to be very good at war." The governor's antennae twitched nervously. "Are you threatening the Empire?" "Not at all," Tae-hoon replied. "I'm explaining our philosophy. We hope never to use our full capabilities, but having them ensures that others respect our peaceful intentions." What Tae-hoon didn't say was that their full capabilities consisted of one damaged exploration ship and no weapons worth mentioning. But the way he said it made the governor think humans were hiding terrible weapons. "How many ships do your people have?" the governor asked. Do-yeon answered with scientific precision. "Governor, human space operations are organized into multiple levels. Exploration vessels like ours operate independently, with fleet support available as needed. The exact numbers are classified but adequate for our requirements." It was completely true. The New Horizon did operate independently. Fleet support was available. It just happened to be 4 other exploration ships back on Earth. And the numbers were adequate for their requirements, which were simply to explore and survive. But the governor heard something different. She heard about classified fleet strengths and organized military operations. "I see," she said slowly. "And what would happen if something unfortunate occurred to your ship?" "That would be regrettable," Jiwan said. "Our procedures are designed to prevent such situations. But if they failed..." He left the sentence hanging. "If they failed, then the matter would be out of our hands," Do-hyun explained. "Higher authorities would need to respond appropriately. We always hope such measures won't be necessary." The meeting continued for 2 hours. Every answer the humans gave made them sound more mysterious and dangerous. The governor's questions became more worried, and her assistants were taking detailed notes. When the meeting ended, Ji-won and his officers returned to their ship. As soon as they were alone, Ji-hoon spoke up. "Captain, I don't understand how we're getting away with this. We're basically lying about everything." "We're not lying," Ji-won corrected. "We're telling the truth. We just let them draw their own conclusions." "But what if they find out?" "Then we better make sure they don't want to find out," Do-hyun said. "Fear of the unknown is often stronger than fear of the known." Hyeri looked up from her communication station. "Captain, I'm picking up increased chatter from the Imperial fleet. They're definitely talking about us." "What are they saying?" "The translations are rough, but they're arguing about what kind of threat we represent. Some think we're spies. Others think we're advanced scouts for an invasion. A few think we're something worse." "Good," Ji-won said. "As long as they're arguing, they're not shooting." "Captain," Minho called from engineering, "I need at least another week to fix the drive." "Maybe 2. You have whatever time you need," Ji-won replied. "We're not going anywhere until you're ready." Outside their ship, the massive space station continued its normal operations. But in the command centers and meeting rooms, alien leaders were having urgent discussions about the mysterious humans. What kind of people could travel alone into unknown space and act like they owned it? What kind of technology did they really have? And most importantly, what would happen if the Empire made them angry? The humans had successfully planted seeds of doubt and fear. Now they had to nurture those seeds carefully while preparing to escape before the truth was discovered. The deception was working, but it was also getting more dangerous every day. News about the mysterious humans spread through the Empire faster than anyone expected. Each alien species interpreted the human behavior through their own understanding of the galaxy, and none of their conclusions were good for peace of mind. The Cathara were beings made of pure energy, who lived in special containment suits. They had existed for millions of years and had seen many strange things. But the humans confused them. "These beings feel wrong," reported Cathara observer Velthane to the Imperial Council. "They exist in normal space, but their energy patterns suggest they come from somewhere else. Perhaps another dimension entirely." "Are you certain?" asked the council representative. Nothing about them follows normal rules. They show no fear when they should be terrified. They speak of backup plans but show no communication with their fleet. It is as if they exist partially outside our reality. The Cathara's report spread quickly. Soon, other species began looking for signs that humans were interdimensional beings with powers beyond normal understanding. Meanwhile, the Brofangi had reached a completely different conclusion. This warrior species had never been fully conquered by the Empire. They remained members because fighting was more fun than ruling. To them, the humans looked like the ultimate predators. "These humans are testing us," declared War Chief Graktor in his report. "They send one small ship to see how we react. If we show weakness, their real fleet will come and conquer everything." "How can you be sure?" asked his aide. "Look at their behavior. No species acts that confident without having the power to back it up. They're studying our defenses, learning our strengths and weaknesses. This is what warriors do before a major campaign." The Brofangi began preparing for a possible human invasion. They increased training, improved weapons, and started planning defensive strategies. Their preparations were noticed by other species, who began to worry about what the Brofangi had discovered. The most disturbing report came from the Melodai, a peaceful species with telepathic abilities. They were known for their wisdom and gentle nature. Their observations about the humans made everyone nervous. "We sense great fear from these beings," reported Melody speaker Sean Lyra. "But not fear of us. They fear something else, something they think might follow them. They act confident because they must, not because they feel safe." "What do they fear?" asked the Imperial Council. "We cannot tell. Their minds are closed to us in ways we have never encountered. But the fear is old and deep. These humans have survived something terrible, and they believe it might find them again." The Melodies report created a new theory. Humans were refugees from something so dangerous that even thinking about it filled them with terror. If something could scare beings as confident as humans, what did that say about the threat they faced? On the new horizon, the crew continued their careful performance. They had no idea how their behavior was being interpreted, but they could see that the aliens were becoming more respectful and more worried. "Captain," reported Wubin from the communication station, "I'm picking up a lot of coded transmissions between Imperial ships. They're definitely talking about us." "Can you understand any of it?" asked Jiwan. "Some of it. They're sharing theories about what we represent. None of them are good for us if they figure out the truth." Seojin looked up from her navigation charts with a pale face. "Captain, I've been studying our position based on the star patterns. We're not just in unknown space. We're on the other side of the galaxy from Earth. Even if we fix the wormhole drive, getting home will take months of careful jumps." "How many months?" asked Do-hyun. "At least 6. Maybe more, and that's assuming we can find the right path without getting lost." Jiwan absorbed this information calmly, but inside he felt a chill. They were trapped in alien space for months with no backup and no way to call for help. Their deception had to hold for much longer than anyone had planned. "We adapt," he decided. "Nari, how are our supplies?" The quartermaster checked her records. "Food for 8 months if we're careful. Water recycling is working fine. Power systems are stable. We can survive, but we'll need to be smart about resources." "Good. We decline any offers of Imperial food or supplies. We tell them our systems require specific materials that only human sources can provide." "Won't that seem suspicious?" asked Ji-hoon. "It will seem careful," Tae-hoon corrected. "Military forces always prefer their own supplies. It's a sign of proper security procedures." The security chief was right. When the humans politely refused offers of food and equipment, the Imperial observers saw it as proof of advanced security thinking. It also suggested that human technology was so different from Imperial systems that they couldn't use alien equipment. Sunwoo continued his scientific observations, but now he was more careful about what he said in public. "The variety of species in this empire is remarkable," he told Yunbi while they were in the station's observation deck. 12 different evolutionary paths all working together. It suggests very sophisticated political and social structures, or very effective control methods, Yunbi replied, playing her part as the medical officer worried about security. The integration of this many species would require significant management techniques. Their conversation was overheard by several alien observers who reported that the humans were analyzing Imperial social control methods. This added to the theory that humans were preparing for some kind of operation against the Empire. The situation grew more complex when Emperor Zexthal himself took notice of the humans. The Emperor ruled the entire empire from the capital world of Dominion, and his interest in anything meant it was important. "Bring these humans to Dominion," he ordered. "I wish to meet beings who can travel alone through our space and act like they own it." "Your Majesty," warned his advisor, "they might be dangerous." "Exactly," the Emperor replied. "That's why I want to meet them. If they're as powerful as they seem, we need to understand their intentions. If they're not, we need to understand their confidence." Governor Yethnel delivered the invitation personally. "Captain G1, His Imperial Majesty Emperor Zexthal requests your presence at the capital world of Dominion." "This is a great honor." "We are honored by His Majesty's interest," G1 replied carefully. "We accept the invitation naturally. When does the Emperor wish us to arrive?" "As soon as possible." "Imperial escort ships will guide you safely through our territory." "Escort ships?" Taehun asked with just the right amount of professional interest. "For your protection, of course. The space lanes can be dangerous for those unfamiliar with our routes." "Very considerate," G1 said. "We appreciate proper security procedures." After the governor left, the crew gathered in the ship's conference room. The mood was tense. "The capital world," said Dohyun. "That's the center of their entire empire. Billions of aliens, the most advanced technology they have, and the Emperor himself. It's also our best chance," G1 pointed out. "If we can convince the Emperor that we're not a threat, we might be able to leave peacefully when the repairs are complete." "And if we can't convince him?" asked Minho. "Then we'll be trapped in the heart of their empire with no way out," Seojin said quietly. "We've come this far," Hyeri said. "We can do this. We just have to be smarter than we've ever been before." "The reputation we've built is working for us," Taehun added. "They're afraid to attack us because they don't know what we might do in response. We use that fear to stay alive until we can get home." As the New Horizon prepared to travel to Dominion, the crew knew they were walking into the greatest challenge of their lives. They were about to meet the most powerful being in this part of the galaxy, and they had to convince him that 200 humans in a damaged ship were something worth respecting. The journey to the capital would take 5 days. 5 days to prepare for the performance that would determine whether they lived or died. Dominion was a planet that had been completely transformed into a single massive city. From space, it looked like a glowing jewel covered in lights that never dimmed. Billions of beings from 12 different species lived and worked together, in towers that reached toward the sky and tunnels that went deep underground. "I've never seen anything like it," whispered Seojin as they approached the planet. "Nobody has," replied Captain G1. "But we act like we have. Remember, we're from a civilization that builds things just as impressive." The New Horizon was guided to a landing platform near the Imperial Palace. The platform was huge, designed to handle the largest ships in the Empire. Their small vessel looked tiny in the middle of it, but the crew walked out with confidence. Hundreds of aliens watched from viewing areas around the platform. Guards from different species stood at attention, their weapons clearly visible. Everything was designed to impress and intimidate visitors. "Welcome to Dominion," said the official greeting party leader. He was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 eyes. "I am Chancellor Bex Quinn. His Imperial Majesty awaits your arrival." "Thank you, Chancellor," Jiwan replied with polite dignity. "We look forward to meeting His Majesty." As they walked through the palace corridors, Sun Wu quietly observed everything around them. The wall showed artwork from dozens of different cultures. The guards carried weapons he had never seen before. The technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had developed. But he kept his observations to himself and maintained the expression of someone who had seen such things before. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into shadows high above, and the walls were covered with symbols representing all 12 species of the Empire. At the far end, Emperor Zexthal sat on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single piece of black crystal. The Emperor belonged to the Thaxian species, tall beings with silver skin and large, intelligent eyes. He wore robes that seemed to shift color as he moved, and his presence filled the room with authority. "Approach," the Emperor commanded. His voice was deep and carried easily across the vast space. The humans walked forward without hurrying or showing nervousness. When they reached the proper distance, they stopped and bowed slightly, enough to show respect, but not enough to show fear. "Your Majesty," Jiwan said clearly, We are honored by your invitation. Captain G1 of the human exploration vessel New Horizon, the Emperor said, studying them carefully. You and your people have created quite a stir in my empire. My advisors have many theories about your true nature and intentions. Speculation is natural when dealing with the unknown, Your Majesty, Do-hyun replied. We hope to provide clarity rather than confusion. Indeed. Tell me, what is the extent of human territory? It was the question they had been dreading. Ji-won chose his words very carefully. Your Majesty, humanity has always believed that the measure of a civilization is not in what it conquers, but in what it chooses not to conquer. We focus on understanding rather than expansion. A philosophical answer, the Emperor noted, but I asked about territory. Human operations cover the regions necessary for our survival and development, Do-hyun added with scientific precision. We maintain presence where needed and avoid presence where it might cause complications. The Emperor leaned forward slightly. And what would cause complications? Tae-hoon stepped forward with military bearing. Your Majesty, humans have learned that contact between civilizations can lead to misunderstandings. We prefer to study potential neighbors before making formal relationships. You have been studying the Empire? We study all regions of space that might affect human interests, Ji-won confirmed. It's a standard precaution. For how long? Long enough to understand that the Empire values order and stability, Do-hyun replied. Qualities that humans respect. The conversation continued for an hour. The Emperor asked about human technology, military strength, and political structure. Each answer the humans gave revealed nothing specific while suggesting much. When asked about their weapons, Tae-hoon explained that humans preferred defensive technologies and deterrent systems. When asked about their government, Ji-won described a system focused on exploration and peaceful contact. When asked about their population, Do-hyun spoke of sustainable development and careful resource management. Everything they said was true, but the Emperor heard answers that suggested a powerful civilization with advanced technology and careful strategic planning. You speak of your ship suffering damage, the Emperor said. What caused this damage? Navigation system malfunctioned during a routine jump, Minho replied.
He had been quiet until now, but his engineering expertise made him the natural person to answer.
We're making repairs, but our protocols require specific procedures for safety. Your technology is unfamiliar to our scans, the Emperor observed. Different development paths, Your Majesty, Minho explained. Human engineering focuses on reliability and efficiency rather than visibility. Some of our systems are designed to be difficult to analyze. For security reasons? For safety reasons, Minho corrected. When dealing with unknown environments, it's important that critical systems remain stable, regardless of outside interference. The Emperor nodded slowly. To him, it sounded like humans built technology that was resistant to enemy scanning and sabotage. After the formal audience, the humans were given rooms in the palace guest quarters. The rooms were luxurious and comfortable, but they were also clearly monitored. The crew was careful to maintain their act even in private. Impressive architecture, Yoonbi commented as she looked out the window at the city below. The integration of 12 different architectural styles is remarkable, shows. Sophisticated urban planning, agreed Nari. Managing a population this diverse would require advanced social control systems. Their comments were recorded and analyzed by Imperial intelligence, adding to the growing file of human observations about Imperial capabilities. That evening, there was a formal dinner with representatives from all 12 species. Each representative tried to learn more about humanity, while the humans carefully shared just enough information to seem open without revealing anything important. The Kythera representative asked about human energy manipulation technologies. Do-hyun explained that humans had developed several approaches to energy management, focusing on efficiency and sustainability. The Brofangi representative asked about human military traditions. Tae-hoon described a philosophy based on preparedness and deterrence, where the goal was to be so ready for conflict that conflict became unnecessary. The Melody representative tried to probe human emotional and mental states. Harry explained that humans valued mental discipline and emotional control, especially during stressful situations like first contact with unknown civilizations. Each answer reinforced the image of humans as a highly advanced, carefully controlled, and potentially dangerous species. The most difficult moment came when the Emperor asked directly, "What would happen if something unfortunate occurred to your ship or crew?" Jiwan looked the Emperor directly in the eyes. "Your Majesty, such situations are why we have procedures and protocols. Our people take the safety of exploration crews very seriously. Any threat to human personnel triggers responses designed to prevent such situations from occurring again." "Responses?" "Appropriate responses, Your Majesty. We always hope they won't be necessary." The Emperor studied Jiwan's face for a long moment. The human captain showed no fear, no nervousness, no doubt. He spoke of terrible consequences as calmly as discussing the weather. "I see," the Emperor said finally. "And these responses would be significant?" "They would be thorough," Dohyun replied. "Humans are very good at solving problems permanently." The dinner ended with the Emperor offering the humans full diplomatic status and territorial concessions within the Empire. It was an offer that would have excited any real exploration mission. "Your Majesty honors us," Jiwan replied carefully. "Such generous offers require consultation with our leadership. We would need time to communicate with our authorities and receive proper authorization." "Of course. How long would such communication take?" "Several days at minimum. Possibly longer, depending on current operational priorities." "Understood. You will remain as our guests while these consultations take place." As the humans returned to their quarters, they knew they had succeeded in the most important test. The Emperor believed they were representatives of a powerful civilization, not lost explorers trying to get home. But they also knew the most dangerous part was still ahead. They had to maintain the deception long enough for Minho to complete repairs, then find a way to leave without insulting the Empire or revealing their true situation. The performance continued, but the stakes were getting higher every day.